Hey guys, welcome back to another Xur video for the week of June 20th, 2025. Let's take a look at his inventory this week. For the exotic catalyst he's selling this week, we have the Acrius catalyst and the Huckleberry catalyst. I definitely recommend the Acrius catalyst this week as it has Trench Barrel, a very strong weapon in the right circumstances, and it's usually best in slot where it's going to be effective, so definitely pick that one up if you don't have it. As I mentioned last week and going forward with these next few Xur videos, I'm going to make my exotic armor recommendations based on how these stats are going to be converted in the Edge of Fate. So on screen right now I have how the stats are going to be converted. For example, your mobility stat on armor that you currently have is going to be converted to the weapon stat once the Edge of Fate drops. Resilience is going to become health, recovery to class, and so on. So based on how these stats are going to convert, the Celestial Nighthawk that Xur selling this week isn't really a favorite of mine. It doesn't particularly have any standout stats from what I can see here, so I'm going to say skip it for this week. Looking at our next armor piece for Titans, Xur is selling Hallowfire Heart. The stat distribution on this one's a bit better. You're going to have high weapons, high grenade uptime, and high melee, so I would say this one's a little bit of a better option compared to the Hunter exotic. And finally, let's take a look at the Vesper of Radius chest piece that Warlocks are receiving this week. Overall, not my favorite stat roll as well. I will say for this particular exotic, it is nice that it's going to have a high class stat, so you might want to pick this one up for that specific reason. And finishing up our front page here, we have Xur once again selling the exotic class items for all three classes. Just like we mentioned last week, class items now are going to have their own stats associated with them, and the exotic class items are the only ones that are going to have these stats added to them retroactively. So if you're considering running Prismatic at the beginning of the Edge of Fate, you might want to think about having an exotic class item equipped to take advantage of this. Now let's take a look at the second page for more strange offers that Xur has for sale. Starting with an Ascendant Alloy for 41 strange coins. We have our usual enhancement cores that are for sale, as well as Glimmer. Not the best prices I've seen, but hey, if you have some strange coins to burn, you can dump them here. And finally, we have a bundle of 3 Gunsmith engrams for sale. And finally, let's take a look at our third page for strange gear offers, starting with a Hawkmoon roll. The one we have this week is actually really similar to the one from last week. Quick draw again, and then the barrel has polygonal rifling, and the grip is smooth grip. So, like I mentioned last week, it's decent, but there are better options available for you in the future. For the remaining exotic weapons for sale, we have the Sweet Business Auto Rifle, the Graviton Lance Pulse Rifle, and finally the Two-Tailed Fox Rocket Launcher. Out of all these exotic weapons, the Graviton Lance is easily my pick for the one that you should pick up. It's very useful in endgame content, and it's just overall a really strong exotic primary that's pretty fun to use. For our legendary weapons this week, we have the old version of the Whispering Slab Bow, the Fractithist Shotgun, the 7th Seraph CQC-12 Shotgun, the old version. We have the Soul Survivor Sniper Rifle available, the Tarantula Linear Fusion Rifle available. For a deep sight weapon, we have the Thin Precipice Sword. And finally, as always, we have our class swords available for sale as well. And I'm going to keep this last section here pretty brief, just because last week I mentioned that the legendary armor we currently have is probably going to be pretty inferior to any new gear drops that we're going to be receiving in the Edge of Fate. The reason for this is the artifact is going to have an intrinsic damage resistance buff for any new armor pieces that you receive once the Edge of Fate drops. Any armor that we have now is not taking advantage of the system, and from what I can tell, any armor pieces that we have now that are going to be for sale at a vendor like this are just not going to be able to overcome the advantage that new gear is going to have. So for that reason, save your strange coins for something maybe in the next few weeks after the Edge of Fate comes out. If you see a good armor piece that is on sale then, we'll talk about it, but right now it's just not a good time to buy armor since the whole armor system is getting reworked. The new armor is going to have the damage resistance increase as well as set bonuses, so you're better off saving your strange coins for another time. And that's going to do it for our Xur video this week for June 20th. I hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.